everybody. Welcome to ABA Inside Track, the podcast that's like reading in your car, but safer. I'm your host, Robert Perry Cruz, going solo on this bonus episode of the show. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, ABA Inside Track is a podcast about behavior analysis and behavior analytic literature. Now, if you've listened for a while, then you might know, and if not, hey, fun fact, ABA Inside Track is ACE approved. By listening to our regular episodes in which we take a topic in behavior analysis and discuss research related to that topic, you can apply for continuing education credits. Now, we do charge a small processing fee for those, and in honor of April being Autism Awareness Month, we wanted to donate a portion of those fees to a worthy cause. And when we were talking about what cause to donate to this year, we really couldn't think of anyone more worthy than the New England Center for Children, which is a school for individuals with autism. It is also home to an amazing graduate program and a lot of amazing research. Now, Jackie, Diana, the other two co-hosts who are typically on our show, and myself, all are former members of the staff of the New England Center for Children. We all pretty much started our careers there. We received our graduate degrees there. So we personally owe a great debt to the New England Center for Children. And we thought, what better way to give back to such an amazing organization that does so much for behavior analysis and for individuals with autism spectrum disorders in their family than to donate to them this year. We're very, very fortunate to talk to Kimberly Walter from New England Center for Children, who was able to give us a little bit more information about the current goings-on at NECC and some information for those of you who might not know about this internationally recognized school. So without further ado, here she is. Kim, hi, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show and do this little bonus episode with us. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I'm very happy to be able to speak to you guys today.
As you know, because it's the main reason that you're coming on to do this episode, this month is Autism Awareness Month, and ABA Inside Track is going to be donating a portion of our proceeds from CE processing fees to the New England Center for Children, where you are an employee. So before we talk about that, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, as you've already mentioned, my name is Kim Walter, and I'm a BCBA and a LABA. And I currently work for the ACE ABA software system, which is a product of the New England Center for Children. And in that role, I'm an implementation and training specialist. So I get to go around and visit different agencies, schools, centers, and help people implement and learn how to use the ACE system. And prior to this position, I've been fortunate to work at NECC for the past 12 years. I worked primarily in our residential program, holding a variety of different clinical and teaching positions. And I'm currently working toward completing my PhD in behavior analysis through Western New England University.
Oh, congrats. You almost there, or is it still kind of a ways to go?
It feels definitely more like a marathon than a sprint. So I'm rounding, the last couple of miles.
Okay, good to hear. I think it's easy to forget because certainly all three of me and my co-hosts, we all worked at NECC. You work at NECC. We assume the majority of our listeners are people we actually know who live in Massachusetts who may have also been employees of NECC. But for
Yes.
any listener who is not in the Massachusetts or New England area, could you please talk a little bit about what the New England Center for Children is in case they have not heard of it before?
I would love to. So the New England Center for Children is a private nonprofit autism research and education center. Our mission is really to dedicate our research and education to change the lives of children with autism worldwide. And we do that through education, research, and technology. We currently have two primary campuses. One is in Southborough, so just outside of Boston. And then we also have a sister school, which is a replication of our day service program in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi, which has recently been renamed as the Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Special Education. And through both of those campuses, along with about 50 partner program and cooperative classrooms in the U.S., along with a couple of private programs, we currently serve over 750 individuals with ASD.
Excellent. It seems like only yesterday, but I know every time that I either get a chance to revisit the campus, either for like an alumni event or for, some sort of a special event, it seems like there's always like a new cool initiative going on, whether it's in architecture, whether it's in the software, the ACE program you were mentioning. What are some more recent developments that, listeners who haven't been, either don't know of or haven't been back to NECC in a while might be surprised to see or hear about?
As you mentioned, we're kind of always continuously growing and trying to expand our services to make sure we're really providing state-of-the-art education for our students. And one of the more recent, actual physical additions that we've added is an Autism Institute, which houses our research rooms and equipment. We have a model classroom. We have kind of like a welcome and intake area for prospective new students. We have several of our conference rooms that we use for graduate programs. We offer a variety of on-site graduate programs, and so classes are taught in the Autism Institute. It's really been a nice way that we can provide more space within our actual center for student spaces. So with the Autism Institute, that's housed some of our more kind of like function-based rooms now. Mm-hmm. And so the former space that took up within the school is now dedicated to student space. So we have a beautiful new art room, a library, a vocational center, student store. So all of that's within our new student center. So it's really provided a nice way for us to provide more services to our staff in terms of professional development and research, but also a nice way for us to provide more high quality enriched activities for our students as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know I visited not too long ago, actually, for a meeting, and I was so excited to see how much, I think, with the student center, I think there was the great the TV in the lobby talking about all the upcoming student events. And NECC really felt more like a high school in some respects
yeah.
than it did when I was working there. I mean, again, my vision was limited. I worked in the preschool. I worked with adult services for a little while. I worked in the partner classrooms. So I missed some of those changes, but it was great to have that environment not feel like, welcome to our specialized private school. This is where, kids who are having a really, high rates of challenging behavior, learning challenges, this is where we place them. And it just felt such a welcoming environment. You mentioned the student center. Are there any other kind of student initiatives over the past 12 years that have developed that you've been especially proud to see or excited to see?
When I think back to when I started, which was in 2007, we were just kind of wrapping up our capital campaign to fund our aquatic center. Mm-hmm. I remember vividly when I was working with the students, everyone wanted to go check on the construction of the pool. And so you'd take walks down to check on the progress. And now every day our students are able to enjoy, learning the essential skills of swimming for recreation and taking lessons in that. So that's been really nice to see. We also offer a music program, which has been a recent addition with our student center, mm-hmm. which I think is somewhat unique to the services that we provide. Our students, again, much like their swimming classes or their physical education classes, now attend music and art classes as part of their everyday curriculum. So it's a really nice way to make sure that we're providing opportunities for students to, learn different hobbies or potential areas of interest that can really last them through their lifetime, all in a beautiful space to do that in.
It is very pretty. I'm a little jealous. Like I wish I worked, 10 years later where the pool was there and all these other really just excellent architectural additions just for the space of it all.
Yeah. When as a employee, even, it feels really professional. It feels like you are actually on a campus as opposed to just a school. And there's lots of opportunities even for our staff, aside from our students, which definitely benefit, but just opportunities for our staff to be able to complete, research if they're studying in a graduate program or a quiet place within the staff computer lounge or lab to work on some of that schoolwork. But it definitely, for me, it feels like I'm like walking onto a campus, which is nice. It feels good to be part of such a professional organization.
Mm-hmm. When you speak about professionalism, I know even way back when I started working there in 2003, I think it was, I was very impressed from the moment I got in. I was getting sort of the, welcome. It's so nice of you to apply for a job here. This is our mission, our goals. I was very taken aback, is not quite the right word. I was surprised and really excited about that sense of professionalism. I really felt like, wow, if I take a job here, I'm going to be at the cutting edge of everything related to research and treatment and education for children on the autism spectrum. And it was very, very kind of galvanizing and exciting. I don't know. Did you have a similar experience when you first applied, or had you already kind of been doing something in the field before this?
Actually, when I applied, I am from Michigan originally. Mm-hmm. So I was attending Michigan State University, and NECC had 2 people who came to recruit to my campus. And so I went to hear about the work that the New England Center for Children does. And I was like, wow, this is exactly what I think I want to do with my career. And so I came out for an interview. And while I was here for the interview, I had the same impression that you did. I was like, wow, this is a really cool organization to be a part of. I think if I get hired here, I'm going to be able to have a lot of opportunities for advancing my own career and professional development opportunities. And their mission is just, something I think would be really fulfilling and that I'd love to be a part of. So lo and behold, that's exactly what I did. Started, and originally I thought that I was going to complete the master's in applied behavior analysis. That is one of the graduate programs that NECC offers. And then I would go back to Michigan, and I would take what I had learned and bring it back with me to Michigan. So I never really planned on working at NECC as long as I have, but I can't leave because it's such an amazing place to have an impact in your career and to also be able to learn from the leaders in our field. I think the graduate programs that we offer are, for me personally, a big reason of why I've been out here for quite a while. But it is a huge benefit that we offer to our employees. So just big picture, about 30 years ago, we began partnering with local universities to provide some on-site graduate programs to our staff. And today we have ongoing partnerships with Simmons University and Western New England University. And we have kind of a mutual benefit from these programs. So we benefit as an agency because we have dedicated staff who we know are likely to stay with us for 3 years. And then on the flip side, our staff who take part in these graduate programs have a really nice opportunity to take advantage of some tuition reimbursement. For some of our programs, we offer a graduate assistantship, and NECC covers your entire tuition and provides housing. So, financially, those are great benefits, but even just the education that you're receiving through these 2 programs is amazing. And I should mention the Simmons University program, graduates would receive a Master of Science in Severe Special Needs and a Massachusetts teaching license. And then Western New England University program offers a Master's of Science in Applied Behavior Analysis and also a PhD in Behavior Analysis, which is what I mentioned earlier that I'm taking advantage of. And so the nice thing about both of those graduate programs is that, you might have classes on site in Southborough in the morning, and then you are taking literally what you learned in the morning, and you're applying that to your work with our students when you go to work with them in the afternoon or in the evening. And so I was just blown away by that opportunity to have such a hands-on application of what I was learning in my coursework to the students that I was working with, within a matter of hours, literally taking it from the classroom to application. And then the nice thing about the master's program is that we also provide supervision experience hours so that by the time you graduate, you have the graduate coursework, but you also have the supervised practical experience that you need to sit for the exam. So those have been, a huge benefit to a large number of our staff. Since 1987, when we began offering these programs, we have 1,400 staff that have taken advantage of those master's program degrees.
Oh, I am one of them. I'm a proud graduate of the Simmons Severe Special Education program. It was excellent. And when I had so many other friends who were finishing up grad school and talking about their loans, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think I've almost paid these things off, Yeah,
you're like, loan too. That's right.
That is definitely a huge benefit.
A huge advantage.
Yeah. Being in that setting, it was always really exciting to feel like I'm going, like you said, I'm going to school and then I'm going to go do my job in which I'm going to use exactly what I learned. And it always felt like I had so many just brilliant people around me, whether they were my peers, whether they were just the leaders in sort of the research department or the heads of the various schools and programs there. I just always felt like I had so many people to ask questions and I was allowed to use what I had learned in a very, safe and nurturing environment. So I was always getting better and better at my job. And sometimes I wonder when, I'll talk to people who they're on an online program or they're in, a different program. There are plenty of good programs out there, but I sort of wonder, like, how did you handle it? Because I can't imagine having done this anywhere else.
That's right. I had a similar experience. I think that's part of the great community that we have at the New England Center for Children. Anyone who works there is very happy to help answer questions and mentor and really collaborate on different things. So I love the environment of, we all belong to the same team and we all want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can as members of this team. So everyone really takes care of each other and helps to further one another's education and knowledge in whatever areas of interest they have.
You're currently in the ACE department, you were saying, correct?
I am. Yes.
I would love to hear more about the ACE, because I know, well, our listeners might want to know more, because I've certainly had a chance to talk to a lot of folks in the department. So I've seen it sort of from when it was originally kind of hey, would people like this, or what what is ACE? I don't even know if it was 1.0 at the time looking like, when I was still working there, to see the modern rendition of it. To talk about kind of the ACE and what it is, its development.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we originally developed the ACE, which stands for the Autism Curriculum Encyclopedia, just as a tool for us to use internally at the New England Center for Children. So we had a need, like almost everyone who's listening to this episode, to effectively and efficiently teach our students. And we use systematic instruction, and I'm pretty sure most people are going to know what that is, but it's just systematically breaking down skills into smaller portions or components, and then using really consistent teaching procedures and monitoring learner progress so that you can make sure that they actually are learning and maintaining that skill. So it started just from an internal need. Before we had the software and the website, it was probably what some folks still do, I would imagine. So you would email your friend and you'd say, hey, I have to teach someone how to tie their shoes, or, I need to teach someone how to tell time. Have you done that before? Do you have a lesson plan that I can use? And you'd email back and forth. And as we grew larger, that became not very efficient and pretty cumbersome. So we initially in the late 1990s developed just an internal intranet. So a way to store and share lesson plans. Again, as we continued to grow larger, we needed a more efficient way to manage that. So we turned it into a website. So it's a web-based tool. And originally, it really came from a need for the curriculum. And today that curriculum has grown to a lesson library of over 2,100 lessons. Covering 10 different curriculum domain areas. So the curriculum kind of came first, and then we had a need, again, like most people, to have efficient assessment procedures. We wanted to know what skills our students have when they come to us, or as part of an IEP or our service plan. We want to know where there are skill deficits, and then we want to be able to directly teach those skill deficits. So that need gave rise to 2 assessments that we've built into the website. The first one is called the Core Skill Assessment, and that's a direct measure of 52 skills that are really foundational for any kind of independence or more complex learning later in life. We also offer an advanced skills assessment. We tend to think of that one as a curricular guide because it encompasses our ACE scope and sequence, which is if nothing else, I always describe that as like you're getting gold when you get access to that, because it gives you an idea of what might make sense to teach when. So which skills when, and it's built into the skills assessment. So you can choose, you might have a student who has moved beyond those core skills and they're working on some of those more advanced skills. So the skills assessment allows you to choose which domain areas are going to be most applicable, relevant for that learner. And then you fill it out, and from start to finish, the assessments are going to both give you an idea of where there are some skill deficits. You can prioritize which of those skill deficits you'd like to target within the service plan or the IEP. And then it directly is linked to our curriculum or our lesson library. So when you say, these are the skills I want to teach, the ACE system will show you the lesson plans that we offer. You select the lesson plans you want to use. And then the really cool thing about the lesson plans, I like to describe them as templates. So it's a template for how to teach a skill, but almost 99% of that template can be customized. So you can make sure that the content of that skill is going to be really relevant and functional for your learner. And then big picture, we are behavior analysts, so we love data. So the ACE also offers a way for you to measure student progress. As the student is learning that skill, we can track their progress. That gives us helpful information for reporting to other stakeholders like school districts and parents. But as clinicians and educators, it also is really helpful for us to make data-based decisions about when to introduce, the next skill or when to go back and do some remediation if the student isn't making progress. So those are probably the two big, huge tools that people have access to if you use the ACE system. We also offer preference assessment tools and a way to track challenging behavior. I'm pretty sure most folks who work with students in the autism population have some behaviors that they'd like to see decrease, some behaviors that they'd like to see increase. And so the ACE offers an effective way to graph and track learners' progress on those objectives and target behavior as well.
Excellent. It has been really kind of strange to see with the ACE moving into more and more public schools. So I've seen more and more special education teachers who are familiar with using the ACE. And so, you sort of be consulting, you'll be talking about, well, you might want to look at this type of a program, and a task that used to take maybe, 2 or 3, I'll give me 2 or 3 days. I'll put something together, let me go get that right now. Let me type in search, match to sample.
It comes up.
There it is.
That's right.
It's been a little harder, I think, for me because I'm an old fogey set in my ways these days to, you don't know how to look and read a prompt hierarchy yourself and make that decision. The computer tells you to move up or down and prompt step up.
I know.
But, that's me being grumpy. I think it is a way to dodge the very difficult skill, I think, of having to train someone to, be able to read data in the moment and make some of those decisions, even with, really systematized processes and procedures. That was one that I would see just error after error, and you go back and you retrain and you do everything you could, and now it's sort of there's an automaticity to it if you're using the web-based platform.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's kind of a unique feature of the ACE system. We have some users like yourself that, have advanced degrees and have a lot of experience in applied behavior analysis and in teaching different skill repertoires. But as we move into more varied clients, not everybody has those skills. So the nice thing about the ACE system is that it's designed to help special educators, also behavior analysts, but really anyone who has kind of a foundational level of applied behavior analysis or systematic instruction, provide effective education for their students. So the teaching strategies that we have built into the ACE system are based on the research in applied behavior analysis, and it incorporates systematic instruction. But because it's a web-based tool, it allows us to bring the research and the expertise of the New England Center for Children into the hands of people who need it the most. The people who maybe haven't had the extensive experience or graduate training in implementing these things, but it gives them the tools to be able to provide that effective education to their students.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely a nice kind of democratization of some of that knowledge where, the more you know and the more training you have, you're right. You can continue to tweak. There's a lot of flexibility in the program, yes. Certainly more so than way back in, ACE 1.0 days.
Yes, exactly.
So there is a lot more power to it, but you're right. In those cases where you have a district that is struggling and they need to generate more and more appropriate content for their most severe learners with severe special needs, it just allows everything to move that much faster. Because again, when you're talking about, say, an elementary school, the name of the game is always time. Is there enough time to provide the meaningful instruction?
That's right. And I always tell this little story. I describe myself as being very spoiled because when I started at the New England Center for Children, we already had the internal ACE system. Mm-hmm. So I have never had to physically write a lesson plan for my students. Yes, I'm so spoiled, Rob. I've never had to. I have, but I've never needed to because we have such an extensive lesson library. And you hit the nail on the head for special educators and clinicians. Time is usually the most valuable asset for really anyone that you talk to. Mm-hmm. And so, you might have a large caseload, depending on where you work. If you're a district BCBA, that could be, 80 students that you have to teach and develop behavior intervention plans for. If you're a special education teacher, I don't know, you might have a class size of 15 students or less. So if you had to create a lesson plan for every single IEP objective for every single student in your classroom, that would be extremely time consuming. Mm-hmm. Necessary. You need a way to systematically teach,
exactly.
But time consuming. And so one of the great benefits that the ACE system offers is just a huge time saving benefit. You don't need to recreate the wheel and write these lessons when we already have them available. Mm-hmm. And because they are customizable, you can really teach those skills that you're targeting for your students. Mm-hmm. So it's just a huge time saving tool. And, I hope long gone are the days of needing to hand graph every single data point with paper and pencil. Because that's not very efficient and it's also time consuming. So the ACE system fits nicely to address both of those needs. It saves people time and provides efficient and effective ways to look at learner progress so that we can really make sure that we are in fact educating our students as we promised to.
Mm-hmm. Even with things as simple as, say, the data analysis portion, having it be online and having it have so much of that information be able to automatically be graphed. I'm certainly one of the mindset that when I was sort of still trying to having to make all the programs for all of the students in my classroom, we would summarize data in the old style kind of grid-based sum sheets. You've probably seen those. And so that kind of gave you a nice visual of the student is making progress, isn't making progress. And then the idea of I'm going to graph every single IEP objective of all of my, 8 to 12 students. Oh, it's not going to happen. I get challenging behavior, everything else. I kind of have to set up little systems to sort of just save me some time. And then you develop them over time as a teacher, as a BCBA. And now the idea of I need a report of all of the students' progress. Let me go click the button that makes the report for all of their progress I'm still kind of blown away that's a thing. It seems like such an easy thing to do, but man, just remembering when that wasn't available, it is so funny.
I know. And I think, in our field of special education and behavior analysis, I don't know if technology is something that we're always embracing because we're problem solvers. So, we're like, well, I don't have that tool. It's not available. So I will just do it myself. I'll do it from hand and I'll get it done because we're problem solvers and it needs to be done. But I think with NECC's mission of using technology to educate and conduct research to benefit this population, it can make such a huge difference just in terms of the amount of time that you were spending in administrative tasks like writing lesson plans and hand graphing things and generating progress reports from scratch. Now, if you have access to a tool like this where that can literally be done at the click of a couple of buttons, that time you are spending administratively can now be spent teaching or making clinical decisions. It just has a lot of benefits. And I'm so happy that we have this tool. I'm so spoiled and I'm so glad that I am spoiled. I can't imagine leaving the New England Center for Children and going to work somewhere that doesn't have it because it just wouldn't be a very effective use of time.
Yeah. And I would think given the, hopeful increase in access to internet in, various parts of the world, this does become a tool that lends itself to a lot of that growth and knowledge that we are going to have an internet. We are going to have this infrastructure that really was sort of a luxury, even 10 years ago, something special that you had. Now it's something that's expected, just allows this technology to continue to grow and continue to be utilized by those who really need it most, just due to lack of resources and lack of time.
Yeah, that's right. Along those lines, we are currently operating in 28 states in the U.S. and 11 countries around the world.
Oh, wow.
And in a variety of different settings, ranging from places like public schools and private schools to home-based services, adult services, consultants, and universities.
Speaking of being in all these places, could you talk a little bit about how NEC became, an international school? Because boots on the ground, I remember, having friends in my training classes or that I worked with that were some of the initial kind of level 2 teachers that went and started working with some of the families in other countries. But then it sort of seemed like overnight, and now it's an international school.
Yeah. I'm going to start way back, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine.
In 1975, we started with 6 students. And at that time, autism wasn't really well known. Applied behavior analysis for the treatment of individuals with ASD was not really known. But the Department of Mental Health in Massachusetts gave us a small grant and kind of took a risk with us. And we hired a variety of different behaviorally oriented staff that really helped to start our program. So we started with just 6 students, and we kind of slowly grew with the funds that we had available from the grant. And over time, really became a local leader in autism education and treatment. And because of our local reputation in the mid 1990s, we had a couple of we started with one private family from the United Arab Emirates who had a son who needed to be educated, needed some services. So they reached out to us and we were like, yeah, we'd love to help. So we started providing services just to a private family. That family led us to another family. And then in 2007, we were invited by the government of the United Arab Emirates to replicate our day service program that we offer in Southborough in Abu Dhabi. So we've operated a school there since 2007. And I mentioned at the beginning, but it used to be known as NECC Abu Dhabi, but it's recently been renamed to the Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Special Education. And that has been a really cool thing to watch grow and take off and expand. It's really a replication of our full services of day program. So it's a school. We also have our partner program classrooms in the United Arab Emirates. We have, inclusion program, transitioning into adulthood programs, and a preschool. So it's been really cool to see that grow. I had an opportunity to work for one of the private families in the United Arab Emirates. And as a behavior analyst, that was just an incredibly unique opportunity to provide services in applied behavior analysis in a culture that's quite different than my own. So it was a great opportunity. And the United Arab Emirates in general is a beautiful place, very welcoming culture and people. And it's a great kind of launching point if you're interested in traveling around the world, because it's really in the middle of everything. So our teachers that work there, they also have access to our graduate programs. So the teachers that go over and work in either our private programs or for our school have a number of amazing opportunities, both professionally and personally, to kind of seek out their interests.
Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit more about what that process of sort of that gaining cultural competence was like, whether for you or for generally? Because I know the United Arab Emirates is considered, the quote unquote, it's a very Western country, but at the same time, it is not Massachusetts or Michigan or Florida.
Yeah. I don't know if I can say I'm competent yet, but I have a little bit of experience. But,
the baby steps, you don't have to be all the way there. It's okay.
Yeah. So the New England Center for Children actually provides a couple of, kind of like mini workshops or courses before you even consider going over to work in the UAE about cultural differences and sensitivities and religious practices that are different than what people may be familiar with who live in Massachusetts. So they provide some good training and information up front. And then anybody who's interested is usually welcomed to talk to someone who has worked over there. So I talked to a couple of people that I had a couple of friends that had already worked over there and had specifically already worked in the private program. And everyone just told me great things. So I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do this. And then I read a bunch of books, you're just like, all about the United Arab Emirates. And those were a great resource too, because there are small things that you wouldn't think about unless someone pointed out or that you had learned about or read about. So one of those are like the hand that you should eat with, or whether or not you should initiate greetings with a person of the opposite sex. So a male greeting a female or a female greeting a male. What are the customs for that? There are some different, just like toileting related routines that we had to learn as being parts of the community or the culture, which were cool. Like it was such a cool opportunity to learn about those different practices and be able to teach skills in that setting.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely an opportunity that I unfortunately never got a chance to do. In my older age, I'm going back, it wouldn't have been fun to go, but at the time, for some reason, I'm kind of Benjamin Buttoning some of my, when I was young, I was very conservative and scared of new things. And the older I get, the more I'm I want to do new crazy things,
Well, it's never too late, Rob. We are always hiring. So if you reconsider joining our team, that could be your opportunity.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay. You'll have to I'll talk to HR, we'll see.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things that's kind of been a theme and the topics we've been reviewing is sort of that sense of NECC being on the cutting edge, continuing to push forward what we know about treatment for students with autism, treatments for individuals with challenging behavior. We haven't really talked too much about the research end of things.
Yeah.
Because I know not very many weeks go by where we're putting together the show where we either don't have a guest who we knew from when we worked at New England Center for Children, who had, a paper that, reports on research done at the New England Center for Children.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about our research. So you've kind of mentioned some of the breadth that we, our extending reaches of research have. So the graduate programs that we offer really provide a nice partnership. So we have a way to get this research done. So we have presented around the world on over 2,300 conference presentations. We've been published, our staff have published over 270 times. Research is a really strong component of what we are, really it's our part of our mission at the New England Center for Children. So in terms of the research that we conduct, it's been known for a while that effective treatment programs are going to include targeted curricula that address major areas of skill deficits. So we definitely address research in that area. That research is always being incorporated back into the ACE system. And then we also do research on establishing and programming for the generality and maintenance of skills. And then, of course, functionally assessing and treating challenging behavior. So those are all our critical areas of research. And then our mission, or the way that the research works, is that all of that is geared toward identifying best clinical practices to ultimately benefit our students. So we have a constant feedback loop. So our questions as clinicians lead to research questions, and then those research questions oftentimes lead to other research questions, because once we know, for example, how to teach a skill, that's usually the first starting question. Well, just how do we do it? Mm-hmm. And then once we have that answer, the next question is usually, well, can we do it better? Can we do it more efficiently? Can it have a broader impact? Can we use it to generate new skills? So that usually leads to some comparative studies. And ultimately, I'm speaking to the choir here, but when we understand how to do something better, it leads to better prediction and better control. And again, that is always fed back into our student programming and our best clinical practices. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the overarching big picture of our research program. And if it's all right, I'd love to highlight some current research that's being done by one of our senior program directors, Dr. Becky McDonald. Would that be okay?
Of course, that would be great.
Okay.
We actually have an article coming out not too far in the future that Becky was the primary author on.
Yes, she does a lot of research, and she's been doing it for quite a while. I think you guys actually recently shared a link to this story or about the research on your Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Becky McDonald is currently working on a replication of some research that was completed by Grapner and Sallows, and that's of the Wisconsin Early Autism Project. Mm-hmm. And in their work, they took a sample of 67 infant siblings, and they found autism symptoms in children under 3 months old, which is much earlier than what's typically documented in the published literature mm-hmm. as being around 6 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. They really implemented something we're all pretty familiar with, which is just early intensive behavioral intervention, or EIBI, mm-hmm. for 10 to 30 hours. So they found 14 babies that were identified as being symptomatic. And of those 14 babies that showed symptoms, 13 showed no symptoms by 24 months after receiving EIBI, which is like crazy. That's wonderful and so cool. Becky is working to replicate the findings of Grapner and Sallows. This research overall is really aimed at prevention of ASD. So if we can identify it as early as possible, or at least identify babies who are at risk of developing ASD. Mm-hmm. And then we get in there really, really early and we provide intensive behavioral intervention. These infants really have best possible outcomes. So she currently looks at babies that are high risk infants, which would be, they have an older sibling that's been diagnosed with ASD. Mm-hmm. And then low risk infants, which would be an infant that doesn't have anybody in the immediate or extended family with an ASD diagnosis. And then she just does some combined repeated assessment measures over a planned period of time to identify if there are some delays. So if delays are observed, then treatment begins, and that's usually just EIBI, so it's behavior analysis, and it's focused on reciprocal social interactions. Mm-hmm. So getting babies to attend and interact with social stimuli. If we can do that, the idea behind this is that those babies that receive earlier treatment and intensive treatment are going to have the best possible outcomes.
Well, that is great to highlight. And we actually have an episode coming up pretty soon on EIBI and its impact. So that's an exciting piece to know that field it's not done yet.
It's definitely not done yet. There's so much more we can do and so much more to know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still remember going to a training once where we were going to talk about TAs. And it wasn't just like, here's a training about the basics of TAs. It was very much, here's recent research on how to do TAs, some of which was done here at the New England Center for Children. So we're going to sort of look at our training procedures. And it was, I don't know the exact timeline because I wasn't involved certainly in any of those decisions at that time in my career, but just feeling like, whoa, there's a new way to do TAs. Wow, this was just done probably, not too far from where I'm standing right now. The research that's informing this training was really mind-blowing. It was just so crazy to think that you could update the procedures because they seemed really great when I first started, in my early 20s, teaching discrete trial. Like, wow, it doesn't get much better than this, I guess. And nope, it can, and it does.
It does, yeah. We're always learning more through the research that we conduct. And just like you mentioned, the really beautiful thing about that research loop is that everything we're learning, we're then applying to our education procedures for our students.
What would you say kind of the next big goals for the New England Center for Children? Because just when I think that they must have sort of hit about most of the highs they're going to hit, there's another great idea or another way to make, whether it's the programming for the students, whether it's the programming for the graduate students, whether it's the research related to treatment, whether it's just physically making a more inviting space for the individuals who go there every day, whether for school or for work. What's the next big thing? What's coming up on the agenda?
Actually, I think you already provided the answer, Rob. So we are, our eye is always to improving the services and programs that we currently provide. So whether that's improving opportunities for staff or professional development or their benefits, or improving the research that we're conducting that's going to benefit the students, or just improving the student spaces that our students and staff work in and use every single day. We really want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can in all of those possible areas. So those are certainly always something that we want to continue to improve upon and are always asking for feedback on so that we can make sure that we're, really addressing the needs of all of the people who make the New England Center for Children the wonderful place that it is. So those will always be on the radar. Mm-hmm. Speaking from my own professional experience in the ACE system, we are really trying to reach a goal of reaching as many individuals with ASD as we possibly can. So we want to continue to make sure that we are reaching out and talking to potential people who we think could benefit from using that. We also have a newer, I should say, online self-study learning platform, which is called ABA Plus, and that offers 2 course sequences. So we have a registered behavior technician course based on the task lists set forth by the BACB, mm-hmm. and that meets the 40-hour training requirement for the RBT credential. And then we also offer, if you're not really trying to become an RBT, we also offer an intro to ABA course. And that's designed for folks who maybe are teaching assistants or educators, and it's going to provide a basic understanding of the principles of applied behavior analysis. So ABA Plus is really cool because it offers another additional way that we can disseminate and share our knowledge and expertise of the New England Center for Children. And again, just helps to give folks outside of our campus and our walls the tools that they need to be effective in educating and serving individuals with ASD. So I think, again, bringing it back to the New England Center for Children's mission, our primary projects are always going to be about research, education, and technology, and just looking into the future about how we can do those things better so that we can have the maximum benefit.
Wow, that is excellent. Well, Kim, it has been such a pleasure talking with you and hearing about all the great things going on at the New England Center for Children. I know from our perspective, me, Diana, and Jackie, the idea that the place we all started our careers, thinking that, wow, we could actually have learned so much that we're able to pass back to the behavior analytic community, that now we can give back to New England Center for Children. That is not something I ever thought I would be in a position to do when I first started my career way back when. So it's a very exciting opportunity, and it was just a real pleasure talking with you about all the just continued excellent work that goes on there.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really always enjoy the opportunity to talk about the New England Center for Children, but especially today where we can potentially give back, like you mentioned. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
If anybody is interested in learning more about our mission or the research that we do or employment opportunities, please visit our website, which is www.necc.org.
Thanks again so much to Kim for taking time to talk with us about NECC. I hope, for those of you who didn't know about it before, you agree that it is a worthy cause of donation. And like Kim said, if you'd like to learn more about it, please go to their website at www.necc.org. If you have never purchased CEs from us, or if it's been a little while, or you're thinking about getting some CEs, if there were ever a month to do so, we would say it's April, because a portion of any of those fees are going to be donated to the New England Center for Children. So if you were thinking about getting a CE or two and thought maybe you'd wait till May or June, hey, why not do April? Because then not only will you be getting more continuing education credits, but you'll also be, through the transitive property, be donating to a very worthy cause. Now, listening to any of our episodes is good for one CEU credit, so why not listen to a few? We think they're fun, and the process of getting a CE is pretty straightforward. You just go to our website, abainsidetrack.com, and click the Get CEUs button, which is at the top of the page. Pick which episode you just listened to, and you can put in your useful information as well as the 2 secret code words. For those of you who may be new to doing more online CEs, the podcast itself is always free. We never want to keep any knowledge away from other BCBAs. However, if you would like a CE, that's where you do need to go to the website and click on the Get CEU button. And again, this month, a portion of all of our proceeds will be going to the New England Center for Children. So go on, get listening, get some CEs. It'll help you out get towards your goals as well as the goals of a very worthy cause. Research for individuals with autism and support for behavior analysis around the world. Well, that brings us to the end of this bonus episode. Thanks again to Kim Walter from NECC. We'll be back very soon with a brand new full-length episode. But until then, keep responding. Bye!